Okay, this is the 23rd of August, 2020. And this is our Riding the 90 Wave series. All right, so let me start by tracking through my personal experience, because I've been really working with my meditation. That's what I feel I'm being called to do at this time. As I look at the world and I see the crescendo that is arising, and I hear the rumors and the inside intel and the psychic impressions, including my own, that we're going into another really difficult period, October, November, December, and maybe longer, but I'm not sure. There is, that crescendo of what's happening in the world that's being directed by what we call the global elite. And then there's this other crescendo, this 9D wave crescendo, because the earth is in the process of actualizing the ninth dimension. So these two crescendos, they need to meet at some point. And we already know what the outcome, I already know what the outcome of that is going to be, because it resolved itself last year on an energetic level. What we're seeing now is the outplaying on a physical level. So last year, my whole body relaxed after the December solstice, and I said, wow, we're done. If you want to polarize it and look at it in terms of a battle, we won the battle. Light won over dark, or the ability to liberate consciousness and support the evolution of consciousness won over the attempt to control consciousness. So my feeling is that it's very possible that before the end of the year, and certainly by the December solstice, this thing will resolve on the physical, because here's what I see happening. This is very much about the feminine. As we know, the masculine during the patriarchy had its own way of moving into nirvikalpa samadhi as a way of burning through the ego. But they did their spiritual practice through asceticism and mental discipline. So there were practices, and primarily mental practices, and it worked. It worked, and we know it worked because there were many enlightened masters, there were many spiritual adepts, and that the tail end of that legacy came in many cases. In some of your cases, Rama was American. He chose to incarnate here, not to come here. But many of them came and taught, or many people traveled to India or Tibet to receive spiritual teachings from Papaji, from those who are descended in the Advaita Vedanta, Ramana Maharshi, lineage, and so on. So we know it's possible. For Ramana Maharshi, I mean, this absolutely blows my mind that he was going into nirvikalpa samadhi for 70 years while in, I mean, just to say that just takes my breath away. 70 years he woke up. Obviously he was enlightened in a previous lifetime because it was effortless for him. I mean, relatively effortless. It's never effortless to go into your own death and experience that and then come out on the other side of nirvikalpa samadhi. It's very, very sophisticated and very challenging. But he did that at 14 and lived to be over 80, 70 years of repeatedly going into nirvikalpa samadhi, where you sit in source energy, lights are on, nobody's home, no observer left, no seer left, nothing left. Just becoming source, becoming the entirety of existence. So we've had examples of great sages, and we know that that system works, but there's another system now. And we know that that began to develop with the development of emotional processing, because in the patriarchy, the emotional body was left out of the equation, and it's an important part of the equation in terms of realizing full body enlightenment and being able to feel in general, and specifically being able to feel into dimensionality. So right now we're dealing with, we've been through 4th, 5th, and 6th, that triad of DNA. We've felt into it, whether we're aware of it or not, whether we've integrated it or not. And now we have this 3rd triad of DNA online, or multidimensionality. It's the same thing, just it's expressed through the DNA in the human embodiment. That's online, and we're beginning, or we're in the process of feeling through 7, 8, and 9. And those are formless energies. So that's what's throwing everybody. That's what everybody's reacting to. That's why all hell is breaking loose, is because underfoot we have formlessness. Formlessness that is being actualized, that 3rd triad of DNA. But we have these women who started 30, 35 years ago, the ones that I'm aware of, developing the ability to do emotional processing. And that's been added to the equation. And that has helped women, the female evolutionary process, enlightenment process got bumped up when that happened. And that's why some of you who have had all male incarnations came back as a female this time, because you knew that was important. You knew that would give you a 1-up on your enlightenment process. So we have emotional processing, and we know that the Divine Mother has really been in the spotlight for the last few years. Every December solstice, there's some major breakthrough, some major balancing that takes place between the masculine and the feminine, so that we can go into egalitarian. But all of that is just intellectual. I mean, it's not if you're experiencing it, but that's intellectually what's happening. And what is happening energetically is way, way sophisticated. Very sophisticated, very, very refined. And people can't quantify it. My opinion is not many people are talking about 9D, or riding the 9D wave, as we call it, because they're not clocking it. It's formless. It's very difficult to quantify that, to catalog that, to say, oh, I know what that is, because it doesn't have form. Interesting. But the only reason I know how to clock it, that I'm able to clock it, is because I worked with it. That was my job last year. I worked with all 12 dimensions, and I was shown those dimensions, taken into those dimensions. I acclimated to those dimensions. Yeah, I became aware of them. I acclimated. I integrated those dimensions. Now there's another piece, and that's actualizing those dimensions. And you can't actualize it until the earth actualizes it. Because even though I had investigated, acclimated, and integrated all 12 dimensions, when this year began, after this past December solstice, this year began, and the earth was actualizing 7th dimension, then 8th dimension, and now 9th dimension. And I'm walking around saying, oh my God, this is totally different. This is full body. This is the actualization now, because I have that support underfoot. It's the actualization of this triad of DNA. And we watched as the 9th dimension came up, 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 up to here, up to here, up to here, all the way up into the crown. Elizabeth and I were clocking this. And it's up now. So she's just got 4 more months of actualizing 9th dimension. And that's going to click in. What that opens is a whole new way of living life. Life without judgment. All accepting. It's phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal that this has come online. And in this series, Riding the 9D Wave, we're way out on the cutting edge of that. So what I would like to do is a guided meditation to take you through the second triad of DNA, 4, 5, and 6, the third triad of DNA, 7, 8, and 9. And then once you get up to 9 and you steep in 9, as I've said previously, you can find the secret staircase and the trap door up to that last triad, 10, 11, and 12 of DNA, of multidimensionality. And then it's really nice. So what I've been doing, I feel that the way this is going to resolve in the physical is very simple. You know, the elite always watch the energies, and then they attempt to replicate the energies in 3D. They're always saying, oh, we're going into a period of time where cities, powers are going to come online. You'll be able to operate your computer with your mind. Yeah. They're seeing mind magic that is coming online and just relegating it to the 3D, packaging it and trying to sell it to those who are uninformed enough to buy it. That's all. They're harvesting. Yeah. And that's what's happening. And that's what it takes to bring the earth into this place of balance where we're headed. So that's okay. Everybody's a creator being. Certain people are choosing that. Certainly the elite are choosing that. But they are trying to pitch the idea that there's something from outside. Oh, there is, I'm going to call it an illness from outside. Yeah. Oh, we need to lock everybody down. Oh, it's 3 months of cloistering away in your home, which served our purposes very well because it allows us to reevaluate our lives, decide what's important, spend time in meditation, simplify our lives, and utilize the stockpiles that we knew we were going to need going into this period. So they're expecting, oh, I listened to something last week, and they're an asteroid. Oh, planet X has been resurrected, right? And I'm sitting in meditation, I'm going, this is not coming from the outside. That which will devastate the planet is not physical. What I think is going to happen is that a group of women around the planet who have been working very hard on themselves are going to begin to go into Nirvikalpa Samadhi, not jumping over, not through asceticism and the mental, disciplines, but full body, having brought the emotional body online. They're going to be going into Nirvikalpa Samadhi repeatedly. It's not going to happen at one moment, in one day, on the winter solstice. No. It's going to happen gradually. One goes in one day, one another day. Finally, they're all going in. I don't know how many it's going to take. I don't know who they are. Probably Pamela Wilson is one. Maybe her teacher is one. What was her name? Neelam. The Aveda Vedanta gals, they got it. That teaching that came down from Ramana Maharshi managed to somehow maintain its purity because it is so simple. If you listen to that, watch that documentary on Ramana Maharshi, you know that it's incredibly simple. You have to come into the realization that you're not the movie that we've talked about before on this series. You are the screen on which it is projected. And when I watched the documentary, I went, oh, I'm missing something. How marvelous. I've got to explore this. So I began asking Ramana Maharshi, work with me. And he has worked with me before. Any ascended master that you reach out to work with. And you got to be careful. I'm not saying channeling. I'm not saying reach out to entities. There are a lot of beings out there that would like to move into your field and help you. But as we know, they're helping themselves to your energy. They're feeding off of you. No, I'm talking about ascended masters, great sages, great masters who have moved into Nirvikalpa Samadhi repeatedly and become supremely enlightened. They are there hanging out in another dimension, and they will help. And so in the past, I've reached out to him, Ramana Maharshi, and asked for his help. Now I'm asking him, please move inside of me. Can I merge with your consciousness? Show me from the inside out how I accomplish this, how I go into Nirvikalpa Samadhi, because I want to be one of these women. And even if you're not able to move into Nirvikalpa Samadhi between now and the end of the year, you can support. That's what this is about today, this guided meditation. You can support that. It's not just a few special women who are going to do, no. It's spiritual women on the planet, no matter. Some of them are polarized. Some of them are still focused on light. I'm not focused on light because that's a polar opposite of dark. And there's a struggle happening, right, on the planet. I'm in the middle. I'm saying, yes, light will eventually dominate the planet, but it's not going to be because you're holding light. It's going to be because you are holding or being held by universality, which is complete neutrality in the center. That's the way to achieve a planet that now is on course and filled with light. It's just a more sophisticated way to look at it. So everybody's doing what they're doing. Everybody's doing their job. Everybody's learning from doing whatever they're doing. It's all good. It's all good. But there are some of us who get this neutral piece, neither for nor against. As I've been saying for 10 years since I've started teaching, neither for nor against. But in that place where everything is reconciled, where light and dark and good and evil are reconciled. So it doesn't matter what stage of your development spiritually you're at. If you understand what I'm talking about and you're willing to support that to whatever degree you're able, just bringing that awareness online is huge. Oh, this is where we're headed. It's not going to a psychic and saying, what is the future? Oh, now I feel better. I know the future. No, we don't know the future. We learn to process, we learn to meditate so we can be in the moment and take everything as it comes. That's the trick. That's the more sophisticated trick. Is just being able to sit in the moment and deal with whatever happens. Not know the future. Nobody can know the future. Too many futures possible at this point. But we have the ability as women who have worked our spirituality in our own way and who now are in the forefront of the enlightenment process to facilitate something and take it even higher than it might have gone before and stabilize that. So we have the ability to change the world in the next 4 months. And I'm hoping I can solicit you to be a part of that. So I've been working very hard on my meditation. I sometimes meditate 2 hours. I meditate so deeply, and there is so much light and so much stillness and so much softness, so much luminosity, because I'm sitting with Ramana Maharshi inside. And I'm looking out, you know, my observer is looking out at my field through his eyes, and his eyes are so light filled. And then I finish my meditation and I can barely see through my physical eyes. I walk over, you know, to the sink and I'm going to have breakfast and I'm like, whoa, I can barely function because there's so much light. I'm just seeing light everywhere because of the depth of the meditation and the stillness of the meditation. And I'm tracking these dimensions and I'm asking to see, can I stabilize? Can I actualize? Ninth dimension, can I live there going forward? That's the goal. And everything else added to it. 10th, 11th, and 12th, which we're not going to get much into intellectually today. We're not going to so much describe them as we are just see if we can steep in them. If we can find that staircase and the trap door, we can sit there and steep in it. So little by little, I'm getting there. And I know all of you are getting there because sometimes I do. Often, I do a private session for somebody and it ends up being just a guided meditation and we go into, oh, it's so high. The state of attention we go into. So all this is open now. All of this is available now. The only reason you won't be able to experience this is because you are resisting. That's it. What is the level of your resistance? That's the bottom line. How willing are you? And you know this, we work on this all the time. Why are you still holding yourself separate? Why are you still holding yourself separate from this gorgeous dimensionality and this experience in consciousness that awaits you? Total liberation. Wow. Wow. So today, let's go there. Yeah? All right, let's start. Let's start by just closing our eyes and being in the silence a bit. Because we've just been experiencing 3D, no? 3D has dominated for the last few minutes. And check your posture. So sitting up straight and making sure that the chin hasn't floated up, so that you have a nice alignment. Because they want to stay in the body. And let's begin by focusing on the heart. Fourth dimension is heart-based energy. So when we focus, we drop our attention into, and we also have the observer that focuses. And the observer, for most of us, the way we clock that is at the upper Dantian center, or what we call the third eye in the chakric system. If you move straight back into the middle of the head, then there's that intersection point between the Sushumna and the third eye. And Leslie Temple Thurston calls that the cave of Brahman. And the observer looks out from there. If the eyes are closed, the observer looks at your own field, looks at it energetically. So if we focus on the heart, then at a sensory level, we are feeling the heart, but we're also pointing the observer to the heart. So the heart has a beautiful, soft energy. It's really a plane of awareness that stretches out in all directions. And in a classic meditation on the heart, you would seek to find the little doorway at the center of that Dantian center, or the heart chakra. It's very small, right in the center. And once you pass through that doorway, your awareness tends to pool out through that plane. So I think in the most sophisticated sense, the heart energy is the energy of knowing. We could say intuition, we could call it soft. But really, through the heart, we know. We just know what's right. We know what's true. And there is a sense with the heart that there is compassion, there is consideration for others. That's the softness, the caring energy of the heart. So it is psychic, but not psychic as in perception. Psychic as in intuiting or knowing. It's very calm. It's very balanced. Because whether you're looking at it through either system, the Dantian centers or the chakric system, it is right in the middle. So it is that energy center through which all the other centers come into balance. And if you can hold your attention very steadily on that central point, and if you move your attention around, right there at the center of the chest, seeking that doorway, then almost without knowing it, you enter the doorway and you simply rest. Simply rest in that plane. So this energetic, this feeling, this soft, caring, open-hearted, knowing sort of energy this is the fourth dimension. And the earth actualized the fourth dimension some time ago. So there's still awareness here of the body and any mental thoughts that may be arising, any emotions that may be arising, any polarities that are arising. We're still in the domain of form here. But it's more subtle form than the third dimension. So it's hard for us as human beings to really clock shifts in awareness, temporary shifts in awareness or permanent shifts in awareness. Because once we enter into a new state of attention, it dominates reality. So I can say to you, I can reference, oh, we were just having a conversation. You were watching me and listening and clocking with your mind. But from this plane, from the fourth dimension, it's almost forgotten. No, that's not reality. We're not talking. We're not. No. This is very calm. This is softer. Because we are steeped in the fourth dimension. So much of humanity is residing in fourth dimensional consciousness, just not aware of it. It's simply their reality. It's a lovely reality. When we move into the fifth dimension, it has even less form. So form is still present. Mental body, emotional body, polarities, still present. But the emphasis on those things has been greatly diminished. The attention here is more on exploration. Fifth dimension is vast, multifaceted. So many things to explore and learn here. So easy to get sidetracked here. Because it's lovely. You're not so weighed down by form. There's more space between the form, you could say. The vista is greater. It's as though you've climbed a little higher up on the mountain and you're looking out. You can see further. And it's not so much that it's more active, it's more intricate. What is available here is multifaceted and intricate in its sophistication. So by sitting in the fifth dimension, you can learn how to do anything. still light and dark, still masculine, feminine, still ignorance and enlightenment. The polarities are still present, but they don't have a lot of weight. It's not the most interesting thing happening here. Much more interesting to learn without that heavy-duty focus on the push and pull of polarities. So a being who resides here, you might say, is more serious about their evolution. They've given up a lot of attachment to those hardcore polarities. Once you move to the sixth dimension, it's quite different, because suddenly the option of formlessness shows up on your radar. Far more space. The emphasis is on the options. The option to toggle between form and formlessness. Polarities are not a big deal in the sixth dimension. The attention is not drawn to polarities or to learning. The attention is drawn, you could say, beyond form for the first time. There's something new in this dimension, something that interests the attention. It's the absence of form, not the total absence. Form is still there. We still have form. We still adhere to form. We can still access form. But there's also something else. Increased space, increased silence, an increased sense of emptiness. a much greater sense of neutrality. And yet form is just a few steps away. We can easily move back into form. But we can also, like a balloon, lift up and allow the awareness to pool out and become formless. Many people tap the sixth dimension and are shaken by it. I have nothing to stand on. I have nothing to hold on to. And fear arises. But we're dealing here with simply vibrations, frequencies. Frequencies that are around us, intersecting us, within us all the time. We just haven't noticed, that's all. Nothing's new. We're just noticing what is available to us. So we can move into form and ground ourselves. We can come up with an idea. And we can move into formlessness. Just like shifting our weight from one foot to another. It's just that the one foot has nothing to stand on. So the experience is often that you begin to float. So this is the upper portion, you might say, of this triad. And always when you get to the top of the triad, there is an invitation to go beyond it. And the invitation at the top of this triad, sixth dimension, is to step off into formlessness, to reside in formlessness, which doesn't mean that you don't have a body anymore, that you don't wash the dishes, that you don't clock the world through your eyes, through your senses. No. It just depends on where you want to live, where you want your awareness to reside. From here, from the sixth dimension, we can easily go all the way back down. All the way back down. We could open our eyes and have a conversation and be very grounded immediately. But we've also got this other option. not form, but formlessness. And there's this sense of, I could just step off into formlessness and explore. So let's do it. Let's allow formlessness to dominate awareness. And when we do that, it's almost as though the awareness, which is centered in the cave of Brahman, begins to experience a little bit of pressure, almost as though it's being pulled out or pulled into formlessness. Only because this is not normally where we reside. But if we welcome that sensation, whatever sensation is taking place in the embodiment, if we reassure the body, the mind, whatever is arising, and we welcome in formlessness, we embrace formlessness. We merge with formlessness. Then there's this beautiful sense of expansion and refinement. We're on a whole different playing field here. The mental body is quieter. Emotional body quieter. All of these things have a sense of being in the distance, being left behind. And sitting in this degree of formlessness begins to have an interesting effect on the egoic structure, which is form. It may feel as though the embodiment is burning or tingling. may feel as though you've just thrown something into the fire and it's burning. That's the physical body's reaction to this heightened sense of formlessness. This is why, when we begin to tap into seventh dimensional energy in our meditation, when we begin to acclimate to it, and eventually to integrate it, the body becomes convinced that it's dying. Because there's a physical effect that takes place. So we turn to the body and we reassure it and we allow whatever the feeling is, we allow. Because it's not the death of the body. It's the death of the ego. We've just amped up our spiritual journey. We've just speeded it up. Not because we're going faster, we're actually going slower. But because we have subjected the egoic structure to formlessness, so welcome in whatever is happening. Breathe into whatever is happening. Check your posture to ensure you still have a nice alignment. Adjust the body if you need to. And let's just sit and steep in this formlessness. Knowing that it's just the ego that is getting burned away. Feel down into what is happening at a cellular level. Feel what is happening in your Shushumna, the core of light that runs through the center of the embodiment. Feel if there is any tension in the body. And rather than resisting, surrender. Check your alignment. Be sure that your chin has not floated up. Stay in the body. Notice what's happening at the crown above the head. If there is any tendency to hold the energy there, let it go. So if the chin is down and you're in your body, not the chin lifting up so that you leave the body, but if you're in alignment, if you're fully embodied, it's not that your astral body moves up and out to explore. It's that your awareness field goes formless. And there should be an open quality to the entirety of the Sushumna. It should be open at the bottom, not being held. Completely open. And it should be open at the top, at the crown. Completely open. So that the energy can move freely in either direction. So freely that the sense of direction goes away. And you melt into formlessness. So notice your mind and how active it is. And notice your emotional body. Is it active or at rest? Notice if there's tension in the physical body. If there is, release it. You're resisting. Energy is constantly moving, and there's nothing wrong with the movement. It builds in waves. It folds back on itself. There's lots of movement in existence. So rather than trying to hold it steady, enjoy the movement. How does your mind feel? Is there more space in the mind? How does the heart feel? Is there still the heart plane of awareness? How does the cave of Brahman feel? She who observes. Is she quiet? Is she panicked? Is she happy? So there's nothing to be afraid of in the seventh dimension. Seventh dimension is your friend. Your friend that's been there all along, but can now be brought more online. And you don't have to worry about floating away or being too spacey. because we have a built-in mechanism that balances all of that out. One can function perfectly well from the seventh dimension. You have access to formlessness. You have access to your body, to your mind, emotional body, all of it. There's less attachment in the seventh dimension. It's harder to hang on to things here. Harder to hang on to your emotional processes. And that's a good thing. So if someone shows you how to get to or how to experience the seventh dimension within, you can get back there on your own whenever you want. And the truth of the matter is, you never lose it. It was never lost in the first place. Just lying there dormant, waiting for you to notice. To notice your awareness field is formless. If we are trapped within the illusory nature of existence, we believe that we are the physical body, the mental body, the emotional body. We believe I am the body. We've been programmed to believe I am the body. And it's true. You are those bodies. You have those bodies. But they're a very small part of what you actually are. They are an incarnation. Only that. A way of embodying the full-blown awareness of who you are. And now notice how your body feels. It's feeling a little more fluid, if it's feeling a little more relaxed, if it's feeling a little more happy, because we're talking ourselves down. We're coming back into, we're focusing onto a less refined dimension. But by going into a formless dimension, We allowed the embodiment to steep in that, to bake for a while in that. And this is how you can use your meditation to augment your emotional processing, to move you forward on the spiritual journey towards complete liberation faster. Formlessness eradicates form. All kinds of form. It's not particular about the polarities. You bring your polarities to formlessness and you throw them on the fire and you say, take them. Not unlike when you do an emotional process. And you process, navigate all the way down to the bottom, to the fear. And then you fall through to the light. You say, take it, take me. I offer it. Yeah. Just two different tools that we use to speed up the process of our fixation with duality into a way of living that is more liberated, more free, more fluid, and eventually more formless, completely formless. All gone. All attachment to form is gone. Okay, good. Okay, so you can actually, we'll put this on our page and you can actually come back and listen to it again. Not as a crutch, but just as a reminder occasionally, because you have to learn to get there on your own. Yeah. But as I said, once somebody shows you, Rama used to say, once somebody takes you to Los Angeles and gives you a tour, then the next time you go back, you don't need a guide. You can explore on your own. So we have a few minutes, and if you feel up to it, you want to share any thoughts? We were only able to get to the seventh dimension. We'll work on it for the rest of the year. We'll get there. Depends on how much you surrender to what's happening with the energies on the planet. We were just burning so much when we got there because you step off into formlessness, right? Maybe we should have spent more time on this sixth dimension where we toggle, but why not just jump in the deep end of the pool? But there you are in formlessness, and suddenly your egoic structure starts to burn away. And I was feeling everybody's egoic structure burning. I said, oh, I don't think we're going to make it to the 12th today. But that's good. I mean, that then we come back and we hit it again. So what was your experience? I'm curious.
Well, I'll share a little bit. I felt a lot of burning, that's for sure. But I would also have moments of like seizing up and the resistance in my mind with lots of fear, and then I'd slowly relax and the burning would start, and then I'd hit another pocket where I'd seize up. So for me it was very jerky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's perfect. That's perfect. The beauty of this meditation is, this is what people in general are experiencing on the planet, and they have no clue what they're experiencing. They're experiencing all this burning and jerking out, and they can't control things anymore, and they're angry, and right? And they don't know that it's just because with the onslaught of formlessness, you can't, your egoic structure can't survive. They have to give it up. So because you know how to process, that's perfect. You're like seizing up. You say, oh, I'm seizing up. Okay. You welcome it in. You become seized up. Okay, what does this feel like to be totally seized up? And then it relaxes. You process that. And I was like, whoa, I don't have anything to stand on. This is a little scary. And the mind comes in and you're off again. But you handled it beautifully. Perfect. What else?
Lucia, I'm still in a lot of pain, actually. Just going through that movement from 6th to 7th. I thought I had it. I thought I was good toggling. But once I entered 7th, all bets were off. And my entire face became just a ball of pain in different segments that I was sitting with, each one honoring it, being with it, and then it would move to my heart, to my throat. And so I kept working, sitting in that agony. And then I didn't hear you bring us out of meditation because I was still working in the 7th. So I'm slowly coming back to the current dimension, but it made me realize that in the past, when I thought I had felt formlessness, I don't think I truly did, because there's still this resistance that I'm aware of needing to reconcile, and I'm completely capable of doing that, but it's going to take me a little bit of time to get through that, to get to the other dimensions.
Yeah. So there's the resistance and there's the egoic structure. That's what burns, right? When you get there, that's what shoots off the rockets and says, whoa, whoa. This is where the freak out comes, where you say, I'm dying, because the mind always interprets dissolution, formlessness, being a step towards dissolution. It interprets that as dying, a threat to the body, physical body. Yeah.
I felt like I wanted to escape from my body. That was the other sensation I had. If I could just escape, go somewhere in the astral plane, I would feel better.
Yes. And some of you were doing that, because as we sat in 7th dimension, I had a cough. So I had to shut off my audio and take a drink. And then I just scanned through, because the gallery is at the top. And some of you were like this, right? With your chin way up. It's because you left the body. That's when I said, this is not an exercise in leaving the body. using the astral body to experience other dimensions. This is staying in the body, full body experience, and letting whatever needs to burn away. This is what you're resisting in day-to-day life that you're not aware of. It's just that the mind or the emotional body isn't clocking the specifics here, right? This is why all those male teachers, it was so powerful to develop the discipline to sit there, to ignore the body through asceticism, which we don't do anymore because we're working on full body enlightenment, taking all the bodies with us into not just formlessness, but dissolution. But they could skate over all of that and just go into Nirvikalpa Samadhi where nobody's home. And then it burns away and you don't have to deal with it because you're not there. The I am presence, the observer, is no longer there. That's the way Ramana Maharshi did it. He didn't sit for hours and do emotional processing. Didn't sit for years and do emotional processing. It's a different way. But when we finally come into enlightenment, it will be a different enlightenment, not a better enlightenment. Always, we just have stepping stones, yeah? It's like the whole purpose of being a spiritual teacher is that at the end of your life, you get down on your hands and knees and you say, here, step on my back and take it further. Use me. Use what you've learned here. Take it further. That's what we've done with the trainings of the patriarchy. We're not dissing them. We're honoring them and adding to them in our own way. But you even get to formlessness, right? And probably will come up with the notion, if we observe it closely enough, there is some, and I think there is. I think the thing is, it's what Elizabeth keeps pointing out to me that I'm working on. She says there's a program running that if you go into Nirvikalpa Samadhi repeatedly, you won't be able to take care of your own body. You won't be able to wash dishes, right? You won't be able to feed yourself because that's what's always happened in the past. Amanda Maya Ma, right? They bathed her, they fed her. All of those classic saints that we read about, their disciples took care of them. Ramana Maharshi had to walk. He had sat so many years with the insects eating his legs away in aestheticism, practicing aestheticism, going into Nirvikalpa Samadhi repeatedly because it's so beautiful. It's so seductive. It's so, I don't care about anything but this once you approach it. He didn't notice his legs, but then later in life, he had trouble walking. So we've got a program that comes from the patriarchal culture and those traditions that we've got to become aware of. And if we as women can sit in formlessness and burn away and take all the bodies with us, it will indeed be full body enlightenment. And that's going to look and feel very different. You're going to be able to not only wash the dishes, but have a family and do work in the world, build a new world. Most of you are here to help create a new world. And I want to help you do that. But the place you really create from is formlessness. Yeah? Then you bring it down through the form and manifest it effortlessly. It's possible. We'll get there. What else?
I'd like to share. Oh, sorry. So it was so beautiful. I mean, thank you. I mean, it's just so intense, but in such a beautiful way because the field is so amplified. So between the 5th and the 6th, before you had moved us up to the 6th vocally, I could feel the energy like moving me up. And that was an interesting feeling. I was like, oh, it's just like pulling me up. And then it wasn't so much burning, but for me, the body feels like it's almost having high blood pressure, even though I don't have high blood pressure. But it's almost like it's like, you know, this internal like pressure of like pulsing, like whoa, you know, and it's moving upward, you know. But I don't resist that. I just feel like it's moving me, you know. It's really pushing me up and away, you know. It's up and out. And then I did have a lot of sensations. So John, I could relate to the face, but it wasn't so much painful for me. I was just like, wow, this is really doing a number. Like I could feel it on my chin and on my cheeks. And then at some point, like when we were in the 7th, I could feel my head, like as if my brain was getting all kinds of rewired. And I guess that's all the layers, you know, of the body adjusting and being in this high frequency. And it's so beautiful to me. And just, I can feel that everybody's adding onto. And Lucia, I'm so used to your words and tracking you. It's so great, you know, just to feel your guidance. And I'm just, definitely looking forward to having access to that track, that we can do it again. And it was also interesting because this morning in meditation, because I have the 12D processor, I actually was asking Rama, you know, can we just do this again? Can you track me through the dimensions? So maybe I was having some insight into today's call. And of course, it wasn't nearly as deep as we just went, but maybe I was somehow preparing for this. So it's kind of interesting too. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, there was a moment where I became aware that there was just so much pressure I was feeling in my head, because I'm a cellular empath to some degree. And so I'm feeling what everybody's feeling on the call. And that's when we talked about the alignment, right? Let it go. Let this go. Because that's the first piece of it. You feel the alignment at the top. You feel your alignment at the bottom for the Sushumna, right? And then you let the alignment go. As long as you stay in the alignment, you're in your comfort zone. Even though it's open at the top and open at the bottom, I don't have to deal with this, which is not holding the alignment, but allowing the alignment to hold you, which means you expand. Everything expands, more space, more refinement, more stillness, more quietude. Ooh, can you take it? Yes. So that's why the first stage is acclimating, rubbing shoulders with. Yes? So today you rubbed shoulders with the 7th dimension. I mean, maybe you have before in meditation. And you didn't know it, but now you have a better sense. Oh, what is the 6th? What is the 7th? And I'm acclimating to it. I'm burning through it, or I'm having facial pain going through it, or whatever it is, but you're acclimating to it. And as soon as you give up your resistance and surrender to the 6th and 7th dimension, as soon as you play with them enough, then you go, oh, this isn't so bad. This actually feels really good. I think I'll live here. I'll live here, and everything will be taken care of in terms of coordinating all the bodies and all the dimensions. That's not an issue. The mind will tell you, oh, that's going to be a dimension. That's going to be a problem. You'll be a space cadet. You won't be able to wash the dishes. It's not true. You're just becoming aware that you are a formless being, that there is something beyond the bodies that we normally pay attention to and call that the I. It's not the I. What else?
Hey, the experience I had, I think it was either from the 6 to the 7, or while we were sitting in the 7, was I could watch, or I noticed the thoughts coming in. And just as John had described in another group session we were in, we become less sticky, right? That's what I was feeling. It was like, oh, they're not landing, you know, they're not giving me pushback. They're just, I notice them, I say hello, I welcome them, I embody them, and then they were gone. And sometimes I would notice in the past, like in regular life, I would want to fight against them, or I think I'm bad, or whatever comes up. But this time, the next thought that would come in, it was much easier to welcome it, because I knew that I was in a more refined place. That's what was inviting in more of the density to be dissolved.
Yeah.
So it just made it easier to do that.
And it was clearer that something is arising in consciousness to be noticed. Yeah. And if I don't fight it, it goes back into the ocean of thought.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. That was very, very nice.
Yeah. But instead, we come in, we grab onto the thought, we think it's real. Oh, this is connected to the process of worthlessness. Then we make a whole story around it, then we make it into a drama. This is the human condition. It's called suffering. But thoughts come, they arise out of the ocean of awareness. This is why in classic traditional, meditation teachings, there is the thought impression. Meditation is about stopping all thought and all thought impression in the mind. Yeah? So you just became aware of the impression from which a thought manifests. And really, there's just the sea of universal mind. And then there is an impulse. And then a thought impression. And then a thought. And then the thought becomes really real, or you observe the thought and it falls back down into the ocean of awareness. Universal mind. That's all. That's all. If you grab onto it, it's attachment. You're attached to the thought. Isn't that amazing? I mean, all these things that we talk about for years. And it's like, yeah, if you really go into the experience and clock the emotional body and the mental body very astutely, very subtly, all of these words suddenly have meaning, more depth of meaning. So that's fabulous that you could observe that. Oh, this is very exciting. This worked. This little experiment worked, no? Worked like a charm. I've got, 17 women into the seventh dimension. Anything else?
I'd like to share if that's all right.
Yeah.
So I came to this with two really big processes that are really dense. And I was wondering what would happen to them because I was pretty frustrated about it this morning. And as we walked through and we stepped into the seventh, I watched them be very clear as structures in my body, and it was very painful. And so allowing it to dissolve, it was literally like watching a metal beam turn into particles. And then I could see how my thoughts, the thought impressions perhaps, were sort of like coming from these dissolved particles of consciousness. And then I could see, and you said it right afterwards, that it was moving, almost like it was in the waves. And so you said, enjoy the movement, allow it. And as that continued, it began to soften even more, and the structure of it dissolved so much that now I feel very physically different by that meditation. And I'm so glad that you did a guided meditation today. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you bring up an interesting point because we clocked the movement. We clocked that which moves. Awareness moves. Other people move. Emotions move. Thoughts move. The world moves. But there's something, and you referenced it, those particles of consciousness of which everything is made. So if you gaze something out in nature long and hard enough, you will see it break into particles of consciousness. And not only that, but you will see that everything is composed, interestingly, of the same particles in consciousness. So then the question becomes, what are those particles of consciousness? What are they made up of? And they're made up of source. They're made up of source. And when they move, they are the expression of love. When source or light, that luminosity that is at the center of all existence, that is the creator of everything in existence, right? When it moves, when it takes that first step into individuation, into manifesting a soul that now will have a trajectory and will experience, we hope, at the end of the ride, itself as source. Yeah, it moves, and that's love. That's an incarnation of love, because the entire movement of existence is a manifestation of love, right? That's why there's fear and there's love, that polarity. But really, in the end, if you look at fear, it's just love under pressure, right? It's really all love. So all of that movement, and that's what attracts us. That's what mesmerizes us. That's what captivates our attention. When we move away from source, we say, wow, look at, I've got the whole of existence to play in. Look at all the movement. How amazing, how beautiful, how wondrous, how much dignity, how much playfulness, how much truth. Whatever your spiritual essence is, whatever you've decided, this is what I want to experience. This is what I want to explore. Yeah. And we all have different, what I call true spiritual essences. Who were we when we first stepped away from source? But all those particles are source energy, all those rocks, all those trees, all those animals, all those other humans, they've all stepped away from source and individuated. But if you break it all down, if you can really see the nature of existence, they are, at one level, at a very basic, rudimentary level, they are particles of source energy. And then you become curious about the particles. Those particles, they move, right? So you're sitting in meditation, you say, wow, okay, I can see that I've broken into particles of source energy. I can see that everything around me is consciousness, particles of consciousness. I can see that inside there's consciousness. I can see that the definition is melting away between the outer and the inner, which is a polarity. So what is the screen on which all of that movement is playing? That's where we're heading. That's sitting in source. That's where the seer and the I am presence and the observer goes away. Yeah, it becomes what Ramana Maharshi calls the screen on which the movie plays. That's pure source, without individuation, without movement. So the reason we don't stop and experience source, and trust me, I've been doing a lot of investigation into this, because you have to understand at that level, it's not about moving forward to find something. We learned that after some years on the spiritual path. I've been seeking. I've been trying to get to. I've been trying to go higher. There's somewhere I've got to get to. No. That's why for the last few years I've been saying, no, back up into your center, back up into your Sushumna, back up into source. Yeah, but that's not correct, because that's a polarity. It's a way of reversing because the pendulum swings, right? So we've been seeking things, and then, as we know, Papaji said to Gangaji, call off the search. Oh, okay, now let's call off the search and let's swing the other way. Let's back into source. But really, it's not that either. It's stopping. It's completely stopping all movement. And the movement is suffering, and the movement is enjoyment. It's why we take incarnation, to experience the gamut of everything, right? All of the joy, all of the pain, all of the polarities. To sit in meditation and enjoy the movement. Yes, but what's beyond the movement? It's the fact that everything is made up of source. And if you stop, you become source. You merge into source. There is no further individuation. You return home. That's the place we've all been trying to get to. We've been trying to seek out or back into, right? We keep trying. Do I move forward? Do I move back? Do I move to the side? No, you stop. You stop trying. You stop observing. You just stop. Tricky to do. But that's what you're pointing to, Elizabeth, is you're saying, okay, it's all particles, right? And the particles move, and I enjoy the movement, and there's nothing wrong with enjoying the movement. But there's something beyond the movement. And if you follow the movement far enough, that your fixation on the movement, that your attachment to the movement, are you willing to give up your attachment to the play of existence? Where would that lead you? Anything else, my beautiful gallery of women? Yeah.
I'd like to share real quick, Lucia. I think either I left my body or fell asleep as soon as you started meditation around. Like, I don't think I heard you going into fifth even. So I was wondering whether I was resisting or leaving my body that quick. I couldn't clock anything. I was like, am I listening? I'm listening to Lucia's recording because that's the format I'm so used to. Like, and then, holy shit, no, I'm alive with Lucia right now. I was going in and out. I didn't even know meditation was ended.
It's always a very tricky question to answer. Because, yes, you could have left the body. You know, if we've had a lot of trauma in childhood, we learn to disassociate, right? And go someplace else. As a little girl being raped, we learned to go to the garden and play with the flowers, and life is fine. And then there is the body resisting, the body of awareness resisting higher dimensionality, and it's like pulling a garage door down. It just shuts down. I'm exiting. You know? And other times it is doing what I just said. It's stopping completely. Something triggers. It's like a siddha that Gangaji, I used to go and sit with Gangaji. And I realized at some point, because I had read Patanjali and he talks about all the cities, she had a siddhi, and the siddhi was, she would repeatedly weave into her kind of Zen-like dialogue, her talk, which was gorgeous to listen to, the word stop. She'd say it again and again and again. Just stop. And you heard that enough times, and then one time you did stop. And then you came back later and you went, whoa, where did I go? Oh, I stopped. Yeah. So I think the trick is not to judge the experience at all. It was your experience. But to be aware, oh, could have happened for a number of reasons. Okay, let me continue to go into formlessness. And let me continue to deepen my understanding of what's happening with my awareness, right? Yeah. So in other words, I don't want to answer that question because I don't want to say you stopped and then you'll take your ego will take that ball and run down the field with it. And I don't want to say you're resisting. I don't want to say you're disassociating. We don't know. We don't know yet. That's your homework. Yeah.
I don't remember, it's from 5th to 6th or 6 to 7. I have a pain in my left ear and the ringing. So I knew there was resistance or something, the pressure.
No, you're acclimating. You're acclimating to the frequency. Okay. Often if there's ringing in the ears, just stop and be with it. And it will very slowly dissipate, but you're calibrating. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it did go away eventually when I just fully pay attention to it, be with it, and also your the possibility to stay in this embodiment. So that part also, I do also feel that fear, like what would I be, mm-hmm. And what would happen to my life, my family. So I will sit with that fear even more. So thank you.
Yeah. Anything else? Yeah, hi.
I definitely felt the burning, and I think it was shortly after that I had an image of floating within space, but the space was like my body was the outer limits of it. So it was at the same time intimate, like a womb, but expansive like outer space, and felt dark, but not scary. And I had a feeling of the outer expanse of it was my body. And then that faded again. So that was just one memorable image.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's acclimating to that spaciousness, that increased spaciousness. Yeah. So that's excellent, that it wasn't scary, but it's dark. It's like, oh, I don't know, this is new territory. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'd like to comment, Lucia, and I want to thank you for this opportunity to jump back into meditation, because it's been hard. And I went in so fast and so deep. So thank you.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be harder, and it was just instant. The field was so aware, and it just kept going and going. And after going so formless, then I started going in, and in was becoming more and more formless and spacious. And at one point when you said, open it up here and down, it was just this magnetic torus kind of energy field. I mean, it was just astounding. So I will listen to this over and over.
Don't get fixated on it. This is why I love Yogi Bhajan gals. You know, they know how to meditate. They've spent years meditating. And when you came to the Portland retreat, it was just so lovely to work with you. But yeah, when we connected yesterday, when you wrote to me, it said, oh, this is a person who's been through a lot of emotional processing. And you had to go through that emotional processing. It's been a difficult time period. But, you know, Rama used to talk about the wellspring. Your spring, you have to keep coming back and drinking from the spring of meditation, because that's where you drop in to the quietude, right? And then we act out of the quietude. So we can't forget that piece. But because you've done so much meditation through the years, you're so practiced at it. Once you got into the field, yeah, that's it. We create a field. And the field is the intent to dissolve. Basically, we didn't get there today. We got to formlessness though, and that's a huge step. So it's like riding a bike. You never forget how to do it. Yeah.
No.
Good. Yeah, I'm really happy you came today.
It's exhilarating and exciting and terrifying and all at once, and love and gratitude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, when you were in seventh dimension and you said, notice your crown, I realized like, oh, I don't notice anything there. I have a tendency to go out, and it was really nice to feel like, oh, well, this is what it feels like to stay in the body. I mean, I don't know if I really was, but relatively. So I was like a little disappointed at some point. I had to like let it go. Like, wait, you're stopping? Because it's so useful to get your explanation of what these dimensions are. I mean, in my mind, it's always just been like, oh, I feel higher. But
yes, now that's it.
No sense of it, of what any of that is.
That's it. Higher. Yeah. Because, as I said, when I took my drink and I scanned the gallery, your head was way up. Yeah. There were 2 or 3 people who were way up. So, and you know, it was Rama. I learned to clock that when I look at people meditating from Rama, because we were sitting in a theater and he came around, he got off of the stage and walked around in the auditorium and pointed, you know, he said, no, drop your head down. No. Notice your posture. He like corrected all of his students, several hundred that night, which was amazing. So yeah, that's the tendency, especially for women. We want to leave the body by going up and out. And yes, you can experience formlessness there, but you're also not completely grounded and in the body. And the thing is, It's kind of like taking drugs. You know, you take drugs and it opens the doors of perception. But at some point you have to say, I've got to learn to do this on my own. Yeah. I've got to learn to stay in embodiment as a human embodied package of awareness and do this. And it's not easy because the body hurts. The egoic structure hurts. Consciousness under pressure hurts. Yeah. And if we put consciousness under pressure repeatedly, it finally solidifies into the egoic structure. Yeah. And now it's really rigid and hard. And so when you start burning that away, really burning it away through processing deeper meditation, not higher meditation. Yeah. But this is the teaching of the patriarchy. So that's a program. Look at that program, because Rama used to say that. Most meditation teachers will say, we're going to go higher. Even I still fall back into sometimes saying, we're going to go higher. But that's vocabulary that, you know, I am trying to eliminate because it's pointing to the wrong place. We need to stay in embodiment and own the whole package, including formlessness. So that's good. It's a really good, I think everybody is saying in one form or another, I'm getting more clarity on what my meditation experience has been for a while. And I haven't been able to name it, to point to it, to label it, to quantify it. And the goal is not to quantify it. The goal is to experience it, but it helps. It helps to know you're on the right track. Yeah. All right, we did really, really well today. Thank you. Thank you, because that was a journey that we took, and a very educational journey, I hope. And we'll do other journeys between now and the end of 2020, and we'll get all the way up through the trap door. Yeah, so practice. Hopefully this will encourage you to practice your meditation so that the next time we can go up to 8th dimension, we can go up to 9th dimension, whatever, yeah. So, all right, thank you so much. Namaste.